Hi, I'm Dan. Thanks for considering Dimgaard. And a special thanks to those of you who are already Patreon patrons or who have been backing us on Kickstarter over the past years now. And that kind of leads us to the primary question, the first question, what is Dimgaard? And Dimgaard is a D&D 5th edition setting, which leads us to the next obvious question is what makes it special? And there are several facets around that. So the first one is that Dimgaard is a gritty setting. And by gritty, I mean the stories in Dimgaard evolve from the things that historically have really caused conflicts, and that makes sense. Religious differences that lead to conflict and persecution. The competition among different populations for a vital resource. The ambition of individuals who want to control and want to have power over other people for whatever reasons. And so when you build stories based upon those, they get dark pretty quickly because the motivations of those people are always complicated. And it depends on which side you're talking to, as to who is right and who is wrong. History is written by the victors, and we haven't determined the victors yet. So that brings us to the next point. In the Dimgaard adventures, the PCs are really the protagonists. They are the heroes of the story. They are not just minions who are sent off by uber powerful NPCs to do things. The fate of nations rests on the success or failure of Dimgaard. If you look at the Dimgaard campaign guide, you'll find this history, and that history is the history of PC actions, right? That the monumental movements of Dimgaard is the result of what PCs have done and chosen. For example, the establishment of Gnomelandia, which is the first nation state within Dimgaard. You have the Tofarian Empire has injected from external and it's gobbled up a part of the northeast Dimgaard. But the first development of a true nation state within Dimgaard is a gnomish homeland. That is the result of months and many, many sessions of play by a couple of groups of players. And their decisions, the success and failures they encountered along the way. And so that's one of the driving forces in Dimgaard is that the PCs are the ones who have an influence on the action and the outcomes. That brings us to the next point, and that is that Dimgaard is hard. Unlike other campaigns who play pretty fast and loose with the guidelines in 5th edition, Dimgaard rigorously adheres to the rules and guidelines of 5th edition. And what that means is that we implement the adventuring day as it is designed and expected, and we use the encounter budgets the way they are designed and expected. The result of that is, by the time you get to those final encounters of a session, the final couple of encounters, the heroes' resources are stretched sufficiently thin that there is a legitimate chance they will fail. There's just a real possibility that they will not. Now, usually they do, and we want that, right? We want the heroes to succeed. That's what makes for a good story. But we need to have the legitimate possibility of failure. We run a failure rate from our playtesting of, I don't know, between 10 and 20%. Yeah, maybe 1 in 10 to maybe 1 in 6 or 7. And a TPK rate about 5%, maybe 1 in 20. So during any of the 21 episode campaigns that we run, there may be a TPK. Probably will be a TPK. Some have had 2, some have had none, but on average we have a TPK. That's just what happens when you design hard adventures. But that does lead me to the next point, and that is what exactly we're doing with our Patreon and Kickstarter. So we have a Patreon, as you obviously know, and we have pretty much a monthly release on Kickstarter, where we release a volume of adventures and supplements. At any time, we are progressing 2 campaigns that are 21 episodes long, that go from 1st to 20th level. And we stagger those in our volumes so that there'll be a low to medium and then a high medium to high level offering in each volume that we offer in the monthly release on Kickstarter. Through Patreon, we release right now 2 adventures that may increase if we get sufficient numbers on Patreon. And each of those are aligned to the 2 long adventures that we are running. Now, they're not integral. Like they explore topics presented in those adventures in more depth. But you can run the 21 episode adventures and not include the adventures offered in the Patreon. So why do we do that? We do it for a couple of reasons. The first, like I said, we do have a TPK rate. And when a TPK rate occurs, you're going to need a rehab adventure, right? You're going to need you can just go back and replay the previous adventure, kind of pick up where the TPK lost. But we find that it is better to kind of take a little step to the side and regroup. And this is a mechanism for that. We will now have those, and that was what these aligned adventures were originally doing in our games, the games that we developed. And we just weren't publishing them. They were just just a matter of my notes so that's one possibility. The other possibility is that there are a lot of groups who just don't have the time or inclination to make a 21 episode commitment. And this gives exposure to those in 1 episode a month, 1 session a month. You can go in and say, well, let's take a look at what happened at 7th level in this big campaign. Get a little exposure to it, get the flavor and the gist, but you don't have to commit to that 6-month grind or big story. I mean, that's more than a college semester, and if your group is based on college, then you could run into problems there. So that's another point of these aligned adventures that are not. So those are the adventures. Then let's take a look at the lower level, right? So what is it we're going to do differently for the lower level? So at the very lowest, if you think, well, I'm gonna take a look at some of this Dimgaard stuff. And I'll jump in at the very lowest level to see what it looks like. Okay, well, we want you to have a good experience with that. So we're going to offer a supplement that is at least 3 adventuring days. And an adventuring day is like a 1-page adventure. So this supplement will have 3 1-page adventures. That's going to be a full session, a full 2.5 to 4 hour session, each one of those. So for the very lowest level, you're looking at each month getting 2.5 or getting like 7 to 12 hours of material that you can present to your group and play. And we want you to have a good experience with that. We do think we've done a good job of catching the gist of Dimgaard in that. But just to make sure, we're going to offer a second supplement. This will vary depending on what we think will give the most flavor for Dimgaard at that time. But at the lowest level, we're going to make sure you get the adventuring days and then 1 additional supplement each month. Then on the monthly volumes that we offer during Kickstarter, the way those are structured are the people who come in at the lowest level on the Kickstarter, they get the stretch goal material, and that's they have their support. They go on our mailing list. We keep them notified, and then as a reward for that, we say, if we hit our stretch goals, we're going. And the first 2 stretch goals of every volume going forward are going to be those adventuring days and the supplement that we offer to the patrons, so that they, the lowest level on the Kickstarter, and we almost always hit the first two stretch goals, so that they will get something of value there too. Then of course back on the Patreon at the highest level, you benefit as if you had backed the Kickstarter, right? So you're not going to miss this. That serves as something of a subscription mechanism for Dimgaard. So if you're backing the Patreon at the highest level, you can be sure you're not going to miss out on the monthly volumes that we offer. And we're pretty confident in this structure. We may have to fiddle with it at the edges as time goes by, but right now we're thinking this is going to be a good way to go. And again, thanks to all the backers on both the Patreon patrons and those who back the Kickstarter volumes. You are the reason we do this. You know, if you're not there, then we're just talking to ourselves. And so we appreciate the support in every form that it takes, and hope that it will continue. Thanks a lot.